any side conversations, and so that everyone will be able to hear this clearly. And number two, please make sure that you do not put us on hold, because many times you will have hold music and that will interrupt the presentation or the webinar that we'll have here today. So we will give people a few more minutes to join us this morning, and we will get started here shortly. Thank you.
Hi, it's Jen. Hello, welcome.
Welcome, Jen. We will be getting started here shortly.
Thank you.
Jeremy, this is Aaron. Quick question. This is for new incoming presidents, correct?
This is for anyone who is new coming into the state council, correct, that are new in their position, and it could be a new incoming president or president-elect.
Okay. I just texted our president, and she was unaware of the meeting, so I will get her the information.
Sure.
Okay, hi. So sorry, this is Jill. You just said for presidents, but I'm a new college relations rep.
Yes.
This was also for me too, right?
Correct.
Correct.
Anyone,
Yes.
Yep, anyone new to the state council and existing state council members are also welcome to attend. We've changed it up this year, so there's a lot of good information. So I see some of our returning council members, and we're really glad to have you here too.
Okay, I just wanted to check, and then I'll mute out now on you guys. All right, thanks.
Oh, sounds good. Thanks, Jill. Thanks for coming.
Sure.
Jill?
Can everybody see the screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, we will go ahead and get started here. Welcome everyone to new council member orientation for HR Indiana SHRM. We're excited to have all of you here and joining us this morning. We appreciate your time. We know time is valuable, and with that in mind, we have re-engineered this new member orientation to be more straightforward, streamlined, and to the point to help you understand a little bit more about what the state council does, what SHRM does, and your affiliation with the state council as being a chapter volunteer leader. We have a couple of housekeeping issues we just want to kind of remind everyone of. One is that to place yourself on mute so that we don't have any additional background noise or any side conversations that would interrupt or interfere with today's orientation, to keep everyone focused and on track on what we're going to cover today. Number two, we ask that you do not place us on hold Many times people have hold music, and if you do place this on hold, that can start playing through the webinar as well and be a distraction. And so we say that if you do need to take care of business or anything like that, please put us on mute. Please do not put us on hold, as that might expose us to that additional kind of music. I also want to note that if you do have questions, you can utilize the chat box feature that is located in your GoToMeeting window. Simply type in your question, and we will respond to those as those pop up, and try to do our best to answer any questions that you have. This session is being recorded today, and we will be providing a link to that recording, as well as we will provide to you a copy of the slides, so you can have that as well if you wish to take that back and share with your chapters or with your team, and maybe there's some useful information you have there as well. Mark, do we need to do a quick roll call, or are we good?
Unless you're calling in and didn't type in your name, I have everybody that's on the webinar, the web part. If you have just called in, let me know who you are, and I will take attendance.
So if there is anyone who is not logged in via the web and you're just calling in on a phone, please state your name and your chapter so that Mark can get you down on the attendee roster. And you might want to take your phone off mute first before you do that. Okay.
Okay.
Looks like we've got everyone there. So let's go ahead and move forward. Let's go ahead and advance, Mark.
I'm sorry, this is Cindy Harbin, Northwest Indiana SHRM. I did not type my name in, but I am watching both online and I'm on the phone. Just wanted to be sure you had me. Sorry.
I see you. Mm-hmm.
So we want to start off this morning by talking about the HR Indiana and our mission and our vision. And our mission is to advance the human resource profession and serve the professional by providing diverse resources, innovative leadership, and development opportunities for all HR professionals within the state. Now, our vision is something that we've updated here recently, and we spent some time developing with everyone's input from the entire state council. And that is to be Indiana's authority and people strategy for organizational leaders, human resource professionals and individuals, human resource professionals and individuals involved in the practice of human resource management. We spent a lot of time having conversation about our vision and what we really wanted to be. And we feel like we've done a really good job of being able to impact, the HR folks and the HR leaders within the state. However, we know that HR is expanding, and that their HR is expanding, and there are so many more opportunities for people to have people management, which is in different leadership. And so we wanted to expand that to reach out and touch folks that were also maybe not HR professionals, but responsible for people management overall. Next slide. So what we're going to cover here today is that we're going to talk about SHRM and what SHRM is. We're going to talk about HR Indiana SHRM, and we're going to talk about just our mission, vision, council members. We're going to talk about your role. We're going to talk about the HR Indiana conference, important dates and deadlines and requirements that you need to know. We're going to talk about how we earn revenue for your chapter and what that looks like from a revenue share. Talk about membership, certification, the foundation, and then we'll get to closing and any next steps with our orientation. Next. All right, so we're going to turn it over to Megan Nail, who is our State Council Director-elect, and let Megan take it from here.
Great, thanks, Jeremy. So today I'm going to start off by sharing a little bit about SHRM and giving you background on SHRM and how it's structured. So next slide, Mark. So SHRM was founded in 1948 and is the world's largest professional association dedicated to HR. They're headquartered in Alexandria, Virginia, which is in the general DC area. And in addition to over 400 staff members, they also have over 300,000 professional and student members in more than 160 countries. And as many of you know, on a local basis, they have more than 570 affiliated local chapters, of which 15 are in our own state here in Indiana. And there are over 6,000 volunteer leaders for SHRM throughout the country and the world. Next slide. So SHRM structure, I know this is a little bit small and you don't need to necessarily see all of the detail, but SHRM is led by a board of directors, which is probably no surprise. And then they have staff leadership and support. And the heart of SHRM is really the members. So you can see that the membership members engage in different ways. So kind of starting at the foundation, our local chapters are probably what you're all most familiar with, and that's the forum for personal and professional development in a local market. From local chapters, of which, again, we have 15, each state has a state council. So HR Indiana SHRM is our state council for Indiana. So that is the structure for the key volunteer leaders in the state to adopt and promote SHRM initiatives. And it's also a leadership and a communication channel between our fellow state councils throughout the country and also SHRM National. So our state council, as you'll see in the upcoming slides, is comprised of certain positions that are specific to the state council, and then all of the 15 chapter presidents from Indiana. Altogether, we comprise the state council. We then have regional councils, of which there are 5, and that is comprised of the state council directors in each region, which we'll go over the regions next. And that, again, provides a channel of communication. And then over the regional councils are the Membership Advisory Council. And they're really the highest level of volunteer leadership that you can attain in SHRM. There's one elected representative from each of those 5 regions. And the Membership Advisory Council, or you will hear them referred to as the MAC, reports directly to the SHRM Board of Directors. So they're the link between the volunteers and the membership and the board of directors. And then in addition to our volunteer leadership structure that you see on the left of that slide, there are also HR expertise panels that are helping to advise SHRM on kind of the future of our profession, hot topics, and so forth. Next slide, Mark. So I mentioned the 5 regions. You see those on this slide, and we are proud members of the North Central region. So again, Jeremy, as our state council director, meets regularly with the other state council directors in our region to share ideas, best practices, and so forth. Next slide. So again, we are in the North Central region. I mentioned the MAC, so we have a MAC rep that represents our region. Her name is Pat Lund. She's based in South Dakota. So our state council is HR Indiana SHRM, and Jeremy York is our director. And then we have our 15 Indiana chapters, again, who are led by many of you on this call as chapter presidents. We also have assigned liaisons with National SHRM, and you'll see their names often throughout the upcoming year. Callie Zippel is our Field Services Director, and then Nicole Hall is our Member Engagement Associate. Next slide. So here you see Callie and Nicole. As you can see, Callie has 5 states she is responsible for, generally in our area. So anytime that you have questions about SHRM or about your bylaws or different things that you know, maybe go beyond what we can provide as a state, Callie is another resource that you can reach out to. Nicole Hall is a really key go-to resource that you want to make sure you have her information as a go-to, especially if you're a chapter president. You'll hear her name come up through various things, but she's our kind of administrative individual who you can request materials from. You'll send membership updates to her. You'll hear from her for reporting items and so forth. So Nicole will be a key contact. Next slide. So why does SHRM have state councils? Why are we here spending our time on this volunteer effort? So as a state council, we provide HR professionals with programs, published materials, conferences, and more. They also, as a state council, serve as an entry point for HR professionals who are new to our state or are in an area not covered by a local chapter. So what we have to remember is we have a lot of chapter members, but we actually even have more SHRM members who aren't a part of the chapter, and the state council is here to serve all of those members and the community as a whole. So again, rather than communicate directly with over 570 chapters, the state councils are a way that chapter leaders can come together to share ideas, successes, and challenges. And then again, our state council, as they all do, is a board of volunteers that includes representation from each chapter. So that's really critical. Next. So this is our HR Indiana SHRM State Council organizational structure and what this looks like. We're not going to walk through all of these different areas, but what you can see is we've tried to divide this out to have support of different areas and leadership so that we can most effectively work together. And we'll get into more of this on the future slides. Next up. All right, Jeremy, I'm going to turn it back to you for more information on the mission and the vision. Jeremy, are you on mute?
Of course, I was on mute, having a conversation with myself. Thank you, Megan. I appreciate that. So we've already talked a little bit about the mission and the vision, so we can go ahead and advance, Mark, about that. But what's key to understand is that the mission and vision drives everything that we do. Specifically, our strategic initiatives that we've been focused on, which also lead to our strategic plan. And so we have three core areas on our strategic initiatives on which we focus all of our activities and the work that we do throughout the year. The first one being membership. Membership is at the heart of our organization because we are a membership organization. And that's to serve the HR professionals throughout the state by identifying the general and unique needs of each of the Indiana SHRM's affiliated chapters in the state. This is where we really rely on you, our chapter volunteer leaders, to help us understand what's going on within your chapters. What are the challenges? What's working well? What isn't working well? What support do you need from us as it relates to membership? How do we drive more members? How do we access and reach more people? Those kinds of things. And so membership being a core initiative for us has been on the forefront for us for the last several years because it is important in the member organization. The second one is chapter support. We exist as a state council to provide support to all of our chapters within the state of Indiana. That's to help the HR professionals in the state by determining actions that are engaging and retaining existing members to attract new members throughout the state. So we know at the chapter level, membership's important to you. It impacts your revenue, it impacts your support for SHRM, it impacts everything that we do. We understand that a lot of times you might have smaller chapters, you might not have a very big budget, and so we try to do the best we can in being able to support you in providing resources, tools, obviously financial resources through revenue shares, et cetera, to be able to help you be successful in your chapters. And our third strategic initiative is branding. As many of you may have known or you've heard, we've undertaken a significant project the last few years, which is really kind of rebranding and reinventing ourselves as a state council, shifting from the Indiana State Council of SHRM to HR Indiana SHRM, and aligning ourselves more with our great conference that we have every year. And so what we want to do through our branding initiative is really increase our brand awareness so that people know who we are as HR Indiana SHRM. We want to make sure that we're doing that through an intensified marketing effort around our vision and our mission, and so that we can continue to attract and retain HR professionals to our chapters, to have a higher level of community support opportunities in what we do, and to be able to serve the needs of businesses and organizations throughout the state. As I said before, it's not just HR folks who are managing people, and we want to be able to help support those people as well in their endeavors of managing their employees and their staff. For branding, we have partnered with a company called Trendy Minds, and actually we've been working with for quite some time. They have been a great collaborative partner for us, great ideas, new ideas, and they've really helped us be able to push things forward and move it forward and getting more brand awareness. Next slide. So we want to talk about who is the State Council. And basically, you can go to the next slide, Mark. So the State Council really is comprised of all volunteers. You guys are volunteer leaders. We on the State Council are volunteer leaders. So that team of that we call the E team, which is the executive team or the core team of the State Council, is comprised of myself as the state director, Megan Nell as the director-elect, and our past director, Linda Dawson. And Linda has been an amazing person for us who has really helped shape the things that we've been doing and still continues to be a resource to us, even in her past director role. She also serves on the State Council for Arizona as well because she just loves HR so much, and she has been a great resource. Next slide. We also have Diana Vita, who is our Operational Effectiveness Director. We also have Becky Ragsdale, who is our Membership Director, and then also Jody Curtis as our Programs Director. And Jody's position is an appointed position by the Council and is not an elected position. We added Jody's position last year because we wanted to increase the type of programming that we were offering to people within the state, for all of our chapters in the state and members in the state. And we're serving our members in our chapters, but we're also serving our at-large members, those who are members of National SHRM that are maybe not local members of the chapter. And so we're really trying to reach all of those folks through our programming. And that's something that Jody helped to do, and obviously Becky continues to do as the Membership Director. Next slide. We also have Angie Brody, who is our conference chair. Angie was also a former MAC representative for us for the North Central region, and she was also former director of the State Council as well. And so Angie has a long history with this, and she sits in the seat as the conference chair. Then we have Mark Records, who's our administrator, and Mark does all of the work that we do, a lot of the behind-the-scenes work that we do as a State Council. He helps with be able to do the planning. He also is the person who helps us organize and put on the conference and works with all of us here on the State Council and being able to support us. And so that is our core E team members that we have as part of the State Council. Next. We also have our state councils, our CLAs, and that's our core leadership areas. And these are all aligned with SHRM and what SHRM has outlined for each particular chapter. Those are areas such as college relations, diversity and inclusion, governmental affairs, SHRM certification, membership, SHRM Foundation, and workforce readiness. Now, one thing we always like to say and share is that chapters should consider that they all have these board roles as well. Now, I know a lot of times with your boards, it's difficult to get volunteers or get people to participate on your board. But what's interesting is that all of these positions, these CLA positions, are key roles to help advance what we're trying to do as HR professionals and also advance what SHRM is trying to do for our profession throughout the country. We see that chapter volunteers and CLA roles should have ongoing communication with the State Council CLA roles and with each other. One of the things we strive to do as part of our chapter support is that we have these CLA positions on the State Council to be able to support you at the chapter level, to ensure that you have someone that can be a resource to help you navigate through some of these CLA roles. And also there are typically CLA calls that occur every quarter, and that's something that is important that we have with SHRM and also with the State Council for that ongoing communication so that we can help support you. We know what challenges you might be facing or what initiatives that you're looking to implement so that we can provide that kind of support, resources, tools, what have you, either from the State Council level or to be able to get you connected and with SHRM and get their resources to you as well. Next. So in our CLA roles, we have Jennifer Lang, who is the State Certification Director. Jennifer has been in certification for a very long time. We're very fortunate to have her on our State Council. Her knowledge is just so in depth when it comes to certification. And, it's something that chapters, when you're talking about certification or recertification, should take advantage of using Jen's level of expertise in what she does as well. We also have Cindy Harbin, who's our new member to the State Council as the Workforce Readiness Director. And Cindy is from Northwest Indiana, and she has been doing a lot of workforce readiness initiatives for several years and has been a former president of a chapter up there as well. We also have Becky Ragsdale, who is the Director of Membership. And again, Becky comes with a plethora of experience in the membership arena, great resource to the chapters, also former past president of Michiana SHRM, and is currently very active there as well. Next slide. We have Chris Schrader, who's been our Director of Government Affairs for quite some time with the Council, a very in-depth knowledge of the legislative process, what's going on, great relationships with politicians and lawmakers within Indiana, and also helps us have a very strong presence in Washington, D.C. when we do Capitol Hill marches and storms and things of that nature. We also have Erin Stevens, who is the Technology and Communications Director for the State Council. Erin is from Southern Indiana SHRM, and she has also served in the past president role as well. We have Amy Wright, the SHRM Foundation Director, who Amy has done an amazing job this year. I will just go ahead and put this shout out to Amy and her team that 2018, the year has ended. We had a goal to be the number 2 state council in the country that would have its highest contributions to the SHRM Foundation. That was our goal. And we met that goal, and we were number 2 for the entire state. So kudos to Amy and her team. And we were only about $1,400, I believe it was, behind the number 1 spot. So we were very, very close there. But great job to Amy and her team. And she is a great resource along with Erin and Chris and all of these CLA leaders for you chapters, and to be able to, seek out information from them, to ask questions, to partner, to collaborate, whatever you may need. That's what we're here for from the CLA role. Next. Last but not least, we have our diversity director, Tamiko Kendrick, and Tamiko joined us last year in this particular role and has been tremendous contributions as we did a new venture last year with a conference for our Disability and Diversity and Inclusion Conference, and she played a key role in that. And so we're happy to have Tamiko sitting on our council again this year, and also being able to help all of our chapters with diversity initiatives and looking at diversity differently. As we challenge our chapters to move past gender and race as just diversity descriptors and identifiers and expand that definition, Tamiko's a great resource to be able to help you with that. She also was a former member, and I believe maybe even president of the diversity roundtables in Central Indiana. So we're happy to have Tamika part of our CLA board as well. Next. We also have 3 district directors that make up the state council, and each of Indiana is broken in. We've broken the state into 3 different categories here. And we have down in the district director south, and that is Teal Erdell. And we have in Mid-East, which is Amanda Shelfer. And then we have North, which is Vicki Cook. Now, the role of these district directors is to be, for you chapters that are in these particular areas, the district directors are a main point of contact for you, for all of you, and working with you directly. That's one way that we're able to filter down information and to be able to share information from state council, from SHRM to state council, to the district directors and to the chapters, amongst many avenues. But you can look at the district directors as being one of your main point persons when you need help, you need information, you need resources, anything like that. That's what the district directors exist to do. And we're happy to have Vicki Cook on board. She's our newest member on the district director team, taking up in North. She was doing her onboarding probably the last half of last year in 2018 to assume the role in 2019. So we're very happy to have Vicki there. Again, the district directors will be a main point of contact for all of you at the chapters. When you do have needs, et cetera, that's the place to start. Next slide. Next slide.
I'm trying, and it doesn't want to go.
There we go. There we go. So when we look at our state councils, and we talked about those district directors, that's what I wanted to cover, and I already kind of said that a little bit about there should be your first point of contact for assistance. And the CLA issues or questions, the CLA leader should be your first point of contact as well when you have any of those issues. But the district directors will also make sure that you're getting your shapes submitted and sent on time, ensure that the presidents attend state council meetings, and help you with membership, along with the membership director, help you with strategic planning, whatever those needs may be. They are there for you. Next. Now, we also have our college relations directors as part of the CLA roles, and you'll notice that we have one opening here, and that's our college relations director for the South. We are currently looking for someone to be able to fill that role, but the college relations directors partner with all of the chapters in helping them advance their college relations initiatives and relationships with student chapters. So we have two new members that are on board with our college relations team, and that is Dr. Mitzi Resendez, who is our college relations director for the Mid-East, and we also have Jill Lynn, our college relations director for the North. And so the college relations directors will really work with all of you and the chapters on your college relations initiatives, but also will help us as we look at doing things from a state council level in regards to relationships with universities, helping universities start student chapters in their particular areas, being able to connect to the students, etc. So the college relations directors are there for you as well. Next slide. So as you'll see, this is just a nice map that shows you where all of our state councils are, and for you, all of our chapter presidents. As we said, we've got 15 chapters within the state, and where you can see that we are spread all over in the state where we have members. So we've got our chapter presidents for the North area, which is NIRA, NCI SHRM, Kosciuszko HR Association, Northwest Indiana SHRM, Michiana, and NERMA. Then we have in our Mid-East, which is SPIRA, Blue River, Eastern Indiana HRA, ECA, and Tippecanoe. And then in the South, Evansville HRA, Southern Indiana SHRM, Wabash Valley HRA, and Indy SHRM. Next. All right, we're going to turn it over to Linda Dawson, our past state council director, to talk a little bit more about what your role is on the council. Linda.
All right, thank you, Jeremy, and welcome all. And, Jeremy talked earlier about branding and the importance of that. And you know what, you are an important part of that brand and how you show up and how you govern. So let's go ahead and go to the first slide and talk about what we value at the state council and kind of how we need to show up. So these are some values that we have, just like organizations have values that they live by and try to create behaviors around. We want to be the same way. So it's about passion, and gosh, we see it all the time with you guys and the passion that you have about HR and the work that we're doing in your volunteer role. Of course, accountability and results, making sure that we are focused on it's not just about playing, because we do a lot of playing and have a lot of fun, but it's also about getting results, whether it's increasing our chapter membership or increasing our certification, foundation goals, whatever it is. It's also about integrity. So the way that we're showing up is in an integral way. We collaborate together, and you'll see a lot of that in the council, of course, as you attend state council meetings or within your own board. It's about the value of let's work together and no one's a silo and we're going to collaborate and talk. We do a lot of that on the state council, and it pays off for us. Innovation, thinking about things in a different way. It's not the way we always did it. And of course, leadership. It's all about leadership and how we are showing up. And for many of us, this is an opportunity to serve in a leadership role that we might not normally do in our real jobs. And so it's really providing that leadership to the members of our chapters, to our boards, and certainly to the members of the HR community at large. And then always having a business and professional focus. We are focused on HR as a profession, and we value that, and we show up with supporting that. All right, so how do we govern? Let's talk about that next. And that is, I'm sure you all know that we are a not-for-profit organization, so we are governed by federal and Indiana state laws. The entire board should read and know what the bylaws say. So if you are in a board in your chapter, you've got bylaws. That should be one of the foundational things that you do as you come into the board, is let me understand what's in there. And ask questions as you look at those bylaws, because sometimes there's some opportunities for reflection and changing some things. So you see the third point. they must accurately reflect what the board is doing. And so look at that. And if you want to change things, there's a really easy process to do that. It is specific to how SHRM wants to see that done. So you can contact your district director to help you with that. And know that no one person on the board makes decisions for chapters, that it must be a majority vote of the governing body. So know those bylaws, and if you're also a member of the state council, then understand those state council bylaws as well. We are an affiliate of SHRM, which is the parent organization, and Megan shared earlier a little bit about SHRM. So we do have some rules and expectations that we live by as part of that affiliate. Our chapter bylaws and your chapter bylaws and the state council bylaws cannot conflict with SHRM bylaws. So that's why it goes through a process with SHRM to make sure that our bylaws are up to date, and and SHRM actually reviews them. And so just every year, you as a chapter and a board should be looking at your bylaws, as we do at the state council as well. And your chapter charter outlines that relationship between SHRM and the chapter and the geographic area. So those are some of our responsibilities, how we govern as an affiliate of SHRM. So let's talk about your responsibilities and specifically the requirements that SHRM has. So SHRM bylaws do require that if you're a chapter president and a member of the state council, that you be active SHRM members throughout the duration of their term. So if you haven't renewed your SHRM membership yet, go get it. Or if you don't have one, go get it, because that's a requirement that happens. So we indicate that should be in your bylaws, and SHRM encourages chapters to require all board members to be SHRM members for greater synergy in the affiliation relationship. And if you have that in your chapter, like you require your board members to be members of SHRM, just give us a message there in the chat. I'm kind of curious how many of you require that in your bylaws. It's a great requirement to have because it really connects us again with our parent organization and the requirements that SHRM has. So our responsibilities are also to effectively lead the chapter or state council throughout the year and mentor the president-elect for the upcoming year. So that helps to create that consistency across the organization. And I know many of you are thinking about, do I have 2-year terms? Do I have 1-year terms? You guys can talk to your district director if you have some thoughts or questions or want to change anything. But do know that the intent of this is so we have consistency throughout the chapter or the state council. And I think, Jeremy's been doing a great job of mentoring, for example, Megan, and really getting her ready for her role. And that's what chapter presidents, that's part of our responsibility as chapter presidents and state council director, is to do exactly that. Of course, ensure the bylaws are being followed, and then attend and actively participate in state council meetings. I'll come back to that a little bit later when we talk about some revenue opportunities for you. But that is a requirement for presidents of chapters to attend and actively participate. Looks like we've got a couple of chapters here in the chat that say they have a requirement of their board to have SHRM membership, which is outstanding. Very good. Thank you. All right. Another idea is to have your chapter sponsor some board member dues as a benefit. Ooh, yes, absolutely. So we see that in some chapters as well. Thank you for sharing that, Megan. All right, so when do we meet? Well, as a state council, we meet quarterly, either in person or a web meeting. So every quarter you will have an invitation, or should have it on your calendar already, to meet with the other state council members. Now, the E-Team, and Jeremy mentioned that earlier, meets monthly, which is really an awesome way to get the leadership team to kind of be focusing for the whole state council where the priorities should be. How are we doing on a strategic plan? So the E-Team meets monthly by phone. We just met this morning, which was awesome. And then there are also district director meetings, and they have them with the district that they're in. They have their own district director meetings. So there's lots of communication going on that helps to keep us informed about what's happening, and we're really good at not missing things that come up from SHRM because there's lots of communication. But this meeting schedule really helps to keep us on track. My silence means change. There we go. All right, thank you. We'll turn it over to somebody who's sitting in for Angie right now.
Thanks, Linda. This is Megan. I can take Angie's slides as she was not able to join us today. So Mark, if you want to go to the next slide. So I know there's a lot of questions that pop up about the HR Indiana conference, and it's really exciting. If you haven't seen our logo yet for this year, it is the 25th anniversary of the conference. So we have a lot of really neat things going on with the conference this year in conjunction with our anniversary. So just to start with some logistics, the HR Indiana Conference, our state conference in August in Indianapolis, is presented by the HR Indiana SHRM State Council. So our state council presents the annual conference. However, there is a separate conference committee from state council. So even though we are the overall presenter of the conference, there is a separate conference committee that is actually doing a ton of work on the conference. So we should always give them lots of thanks for all they do throughout the year. And then the conference chair of that committee is a state council member. So that's the formal link between the conference and the state council. Next. So you may be wondering, as a state council member, what is your role in the state conference? So a couple of things. Definitely promote attendance in your chapter and then your organization or your peer group. So we all want to promote attendance in our conference. It's really how we generate revenue, and Linda will actually talk a little more about that in a bit. And you'll see lots of communication and tools to help you promote that via social media, postcards, and things that come out once we get more into the spring and summer. Also, promote volunteers from your chapter. And as we're going to talk about with the revenue share, that is such an easy way to earn funds for your chapter, is to promote volunteering. And a lot of those opportunities don't mean that you have to miss any part of the conference. It can be as easy as being a greeter, introducing a speaker, helping us with a membership booth, but we really need volunteers to make it a success. And on the same token, please attend and volunteer if you are able to. I know we always have a great representation from the council in attendance and volunteers at the conference, and that's really important. Next. All right, now I'm going to talk about some dates, deadlines, and requirements for you to be aware of. So, fast approaching is the chapter and state council SHAPE year-end report. And you may be wondering what a SHAPE is. Basically, it's an online form that you fill out that reports key information about your chapter or about our state council to SHRM National. It is required to be a chapter in good standing, so it's not an optional item, but really it shouldn't take you more than a half hour or an hour at very, very most to complete. I would suggest you don't wait until the last minute to complete that SHAPE. Because you do need to pull a few basic financial numbers and other things to be able to complete it. So take a look at it. And you can find the SHAPE out on the VLRC, which is the Volunteer Leader Resource Center, which Becky is going to talk about in a few slides from here. Our Indiana VLS, which stands for Volunteer Leader Summit, is February 21st through 22nd in Indianapolis, and we'll be covering more on that soon, but save the date. That will be the follow-up to you learning more about your role on the State Council and volunteer leadership in SHRM. On March 15th is when the Excel Award application form is due. You may have seen in various forums, or maybe your chapter is an award winner, but SHRM does recognize chapters for their achievements through an Excel Award program. This is a little more in-depth than the SHAPE is, because you'll be describing some of the initiatives and accomplishments that your chapter had to qualify for different awards. Again, you can find that information on the Volunteer Leader Resource Center, and I really encourage you to start working on that early so that you can submit a great application and hopefully be one of the recognized chapters for that program. In November, we have a couple of key dates. We have the SHRM Recertification Provider Reaffirmation, which Jen, I believe, will maybe briefly touch on later in this presentation. And then we have the SHRM National Volunteer Leader Summit in Washington, D.C. So save the date for that, and more information will be forthcoming. In December, we have kind of our year-end cleanup items. So the CLIF is the chapter leader information form. Basically, you're sending all of the contact information for your key chapter leaders to SHRM National so they know how to communicate with you. If you have changes throughout the year, it's important to keep that updated with SHRM National and also to let us at the State Council know so that we can do our best to get the right communications to the right people. And you can communicate that through your district director. And then finally, at the very end of the year, usually December 31st is the deadline for receipt of SHRM Foundation donations, and Amy will be talking about that. Next up. So I mentioned the National Volunteer Leader Summit. The target audience for that are the incoming chapter presidents and the incoming state directors. Sometimes other core leadership areas are also invited to attend. Often it seems to be membership and certification, but we find out that information every year and it may differ. What doesn't differ is that every chapter should be represented every year. So if you are an incoming chapter president and you are not able to attend, it is critical that you find another board member from your chapter who can attend and get that information. It is free for incoming chapter presidents. That includes your hotel, certain meals, and conference registration. However, your chapter is responsible for travel expenses out to DC and any other expenses incurred. So as you're finalizing your budgeting for this year, please make sure that you budget for those expenses. And then your attendance is tied to the award level that I mentioned previously. So it's really, really important that you're there so you get all of the great information, not only from the speakers and from SHRM National, but from your peers across the country. If you were or weren't able to attend last year, you can find all the presentations from last year at that web link, and I really encourage you to look at those. There was some great information that was shared. Next up. So our Indiana Volunteer Leadership Summit, you don't have to travel all the way to DC. This is for all of your chapter board members and all state council members. So I know a lot of the chapters come down and carpool down together to Indianapolis, and it's a great time for you to gather with all the others throughout the state. So every chapter should be represented every year, and we really encourage you to attend as many of you as possible. We will be having a state council meeting the afternoon of Thursday, February 21st, as well as a networking event that evening. And the volunteer summit itself will be Friday, the 22nd. So Mark, I see a question in the chat. Can you remind the chapters about the hotel program for Thursday night for those chapters that are outside of the Indianapolis area?
Yes, and you'll be getting a sign-up form shortly. We will provide for the chapters that have to travel more than a few miles to get to the VLS. We will offer 2 free overnight rooms at the Crowne Plaza Airport, and also 2 half-price rooms at the Crowne Plaza Airport. So however you want to use them is up to your chapter. But that form that you'll be getting will outline all of that information.
Great. So we really do our best to make it very cost effective because it is an important opportunity, and we really hope that many people from your chapters can attend. So thanks, Becky, for that question. Next up. Pinnacles. So I talked about the Excel Awards. Those are overall awards for your chapter as a whole. The Pinnacle Awards are really focused around certain initiatives or programs or efforts that your chapter has on more of an individual basis. So they are awarded to chapter state council at the annual Volunteer Leader Summit in DC, so at the national VLS. You can see some examples, and every year when I hear about the Pinnacle Award winners, I am just blown away by all of the great work that we are all doing as volunteers in our community. And our state council and many of our chapters have been Pinnacle Award winners in the past, so If that's something that you're striving for as you work on your chapter strategic plan, definitely connect with your district director so they can connect you with some of our award-winning chapters who can share their ideas and knowledge. In addition to just being recognized in SHRM publications and at the event, there is a $1,000 award that goes with that recognition. And you can find out more about past Pinnacle Award winners in the Volunteer Leader Resource Center on the web. All right, next slide. So I'd mentioned the chapter leader information form and the state council leader information form. Again, it is critical that we submit our contact information as soon as possible. It's an online form. Even if you don't have all of your roles filled, it is critical that it's submitted by December 1st with the information that you do know. It is required, and again, it allows SHRM to keep in touch with the board members. We do ask that you send a copy of your CLIF to Mark Records or to our general HR Indiana SHRM email address, or you can send it to your district director. Send it to somebody on the state council so that we can update our lists. And hopefully keep that updated so our communication with all of you is as good as it can be. Next up. And I think this is the final slide on this. I just wanted to touch on and remind everyone, it is really, really important that we're using the SHRM logo in a consistent way. We talked about branding, and I know in many of our organizations in our day job, we're talking about credibility and spam emails and making sure that we're giving a consistent brand so that the community has confidence in their information they're receiving from us. And there is a graphic standards manual out there on the SHRM site, and I really encourage you to look through that and audit your materials to make sure that you're using it correctly, and that is one of the requirements in the shape. So you'll want to make sure you have everything 100%. Next. I guess I did have a few more. SHRM membership requirements. Just a reminder, if you are a 100% chapter, that means that your chapter requires members to have a national SHRM membership. You must have a minimum of 25 SHRM members in that chapter if you're 100%. And we have Michiana as a 100% chapter, so congrats to Michiana. And then if you're not 100% chapter, you need to have a minimum of 25 SHRM national members and a minimum of 51% SHRM membership. That has been delayed, but that is really what you should be striving for. As Becky's going to talk about in the membership section coming up, really to have the full SHRM membership experience, we strive for individuals to be a national member, a local chapter member, and be SHRM certified. All right. I see a question that came in on what time the state council meeting will be in the afternoon of the 21st before VLS. Is that starting at noon, I believe? Mark or Jeremy?
I believe it's after lunch. I think maybe it's 1, but
Okay.
we will definitely communicate.
The state council meeting for that day in February?
Yes.
On Thursday, yeah.
We have it at, that's on the Thursday, the 21st, and looks like we are starting it at noon, yes.
At noon, okay.
And that runs until 4 or 5, correct, Jeremy?
Yeah, to 5. We've got it scheduled noon to 5.
Okay, and then the networking reception will follow.
Yep.
Thank you, Jess. Okay. So communication expectations. Chapter presidents, really, we need you to attend the state council meetings or send a substitute on your behalf, and that will also be a part of your revenue share. So it's critical that someone from your chapter is there to learn about what is going on, and so that we have participation in our initiatives. And it's critical for us to hear from all the chapters and make sure that we have your representation and insights into all we do. Read all correspondence from the state council and SHRM staff. I know we receive a lot of emails, and currently email is one of the primary ways that we communicate. We try to, on the State Council, streamline as much as possible so that your correspondence comes in our monthly newsletter. It is important that you allow email messages from SHRM National and from our State Council account. If you know that a lot of emails bounce on your work email, please provide us with a personal email address so that our messages make it through to you. If you opted out of any SHRM emails, you will not receive voluntary emails until you opt in again. And if you need any help with checking your communication preferences, log into your SHRM account online or reach out to Nicole Hall to help. But it's really important you're receiving our emails and reviewing them regularly. Next up. All right, Linda, I'll turn it back over to you to talk about revenue share.
All right, great. The fun stuff, guys. Here it is. How do we make money? How do we get revenue in our chapter so that we can do all the great things we want to do for our members? So if you've got a thought about how you do that, I'd like you to throw it into the chat. What are some things you guys do in your chapters to earn revenue? Just share it. This doesn't have to be what we're going to talk about here, but just things you do on your own. And then we'll talk about some of the things that is provided to you through SHRM and through the State Council. So yes, you've got sponsorships and guest fees that help to earn that sponsorship. Yes, and I love it that a lot of most of our chapters use sponsorships and get sponsorships. Volunteers help to do that, I guess, in a way that you kind of fill in some things that might otherwise be revenue or expense generated. And then also, of course, if you're getting revenue for your chapter program fees, you may also do that off the certified program. So there's various ways that you do that in your chapter, but there are so many other ways that you receive support. So we want to be sure that you're clear on the support that you get from SHRM and from the State Council. So yes, look at some of the things that the chapters are doing in the chat there. But let's start out with this chapter financial support payments that is really taking, which is provided by SHRM. And SHRM basically is taking a portion of the SHRM members' dues to chapters and giving it back to our chapters. So you've got to be eligible for it, first of all, though. You need to do things. We talked about SHAPE already. You need to submit the SHAPE. You need to submit your membership roster, which we talked about. You need to complete the SHRM recertification provider reaffirmation by November 15th. The membership affiliation requirements that Megan just went over, and then chapter president, we talked about this earlier, SHRM member in good standing, and then you need to have those SHRM approved ratified bylaws on file at SHRM. Again, we talked about that earlier. Megan talked about the affiliate of SHRM logo to use correctly, and then you need to hold a minimum of 4 chapter meetings and 4 chapter board meetings in order to be eligible for this support payment. So now let's look at how that works. If you've got all those things, what's next? I know the slide's turning. The slide is turning. Here it goes. Any minute. Yes. Okay. So here's how it happens. And I will say that SHRM, just so you know, SHRM pays chapters and councils several $1 million per year in financial support. That just talks to the importance that SHRM places on chapters and councils to really connect with our local HR professionals. So state councils will get a minimum of $2,000 per year based on the SHRM membership in the state, or $1 per SHRM member. And guess what? We get more than the $2,000 because we have, I don't know the latest, Becky, but 5,500, almost 6,000 SHRM members in the state. So we get that as a state council, and then quarterly payments to 100% chapters, or a twice-a-year payment for non-100% chapters in this way. So for every SHRM member that you have in non-100% SHRM chapter, you get $10 per SHRM member, again, a twice-a-year payment. And then 100% chapters get $25. And I will say that that's why Becky's going to be talking about that membership report that you get, because it's great to have, increasing our membership in chapters, but it's even better when you're increasing them in their SHRM members, because you're going to get revenue share. And that's why we pay so much attention to that, our membership report that we get every month. All right, so let's go to the next slide. is there financial support or student SHRM chapters? Yeah, I think Becky might be able to share a little bit about that as well, because when she goes over the report, I'm not exactly sure what the number is in front of me at the moment, but we'll get that for you and just confirm what that is. I'm pretty sure it's just a number that we just report on, but we don't get reimbursement for that. But we'll see. Okay, so the other thing that you get is this net gain payment. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about that because that slide is slightly confusing here. But here's what net gain payment is. So if you are 100% chapter, you are going to receive $25 annually per member for the SHRM chapter. Okay, wait, hold on. I'm getting it to you. Okay, yes. So chapter support is when you get a net gain in chapter members. So, right. For example, yeah, so it's calculated based on, here's how many you had in 2017, for example, here's how many members you have in 2018. If you are 100% chapter, you will receive $25 annually for the net gain, the number of members that you have increased. If you are non-100% chapter, it is $5 twice a year, $10 annually per member for non-100% chapters. And these net gain payment rewards are really recognizing the growth in membership that you have every year. So you also get that payment as well, which you can see there. And by the way, as we go through this, please ask any questions you have in the chat because, yeah, thank you, Becky, on that. Because this is—
Hey, Linda.
Yeah.
I think this is the net gain is for both non-100% and 100% chapters. You get $25
Correct.
for whatever increase you have. So the 10 times 25 goes for both.
Okay. I've got it's $25 if you're a 100% chapter and $10 if you're a non-100% chapter. But we will.
Okay.
That's a net gain payment. Is that right, Mark? Does that sound right? Or you're
the net gain payment is 25, and then the yearly payment is the 10 and 25. Okay. Okay. All right. We'll clarify that for you guys. Sorry about that. Yeah.
No, that's okay. I'm looking at the SHRM deck that was sent to clarify, so I've got a different number, but we'll clarify that for you guys and make sure it's in the deck, because I don't know, Mark, if we're going to send this deck out to everybody, but we'll make sure that that is correct. Thank you. Go ahead and let's get off of this. All right. So here's where you get your, this is for the recertification incentive. And again, you need to be a chapter in good standing, as Megan clarified earlier. And so for chapters, it's $20 per SHRM member in the chapter, and they recertify for SHRM certification during 2019. So this is for the upcoming year that SHRM has agreed to continue this reimbursement or incentive for now. And that will be, again, for chapters, you get $20 per SHRM member if they recertify in 2019. For state councils, we get to kind of double dip into that. We get $10 per each SHRM member in chapter, and as well as our at-large members in the state who recertify during 2019. So payments will be made in early 2020. So our message here is really recertify, promote it, market it, make sure that we are letting our members know that the importance of recertification, and know that we get that incentive as well. Great, thank you. All right, so let's talk about the state. So that was all SHRM, what SHRM provides. And yes, absolutely, Teal, recertification incentive equals free money for the council and the chapter. So yes, let's get that recertification going with our members. So state revenue share, how it works, it all starts with net income for the state. So we look at our net income, we finalize our calendar year-end financial statements, as we're doing right now for the state council, and then 30% of that net income is shared with chapters, and 70% stays with the council to reinvest, etc. So the more we make, the more we share. So let's get a little bit more detail around that for you. Go, go, go. All right. So here's some factors that help to contribute to the state revenue share. First of all, attendees at conference, we're always promoting, get your members to come to the conference, first of all. And for every member attendee from your chapter that attends the conference, you get 1 point per person that attends. If you've got volunteers at the conference, it's 2 points for every shift that volunteers from your chapter work. And then, and Megan talked about the award winners earlier about the incentive that you get, but also you get points as part of revenue share. So if you're chapter of the year at the state level, professional of the year, volunteer of the year, you get 10 points for each of those awards. And then there's also additional points. So the number of SHRM members as of 10/31 in your chapter, again, we're focusing on SHRM members, and then the percent of state council meetings attended. So then there it is again, the importance of the presidents of the chapters to be attending the state council meetings, because that also goes into your revenue share. Go ahead and switch. And again, if you guys have any questions about this, go ahead and put that into the chat and we'll get those answered for you. So you want more state revenue share? Here's the big five. Here's the big five things that you can do to make that happen. Encourage members to go to the state conference. Encourage members to volunteer. Nominate people for awards, because if you get an award, you get points. Encourage members to join SHRM and attend or send a substitute to the state council meetings. And that's how you get revenue for your chapters. You got revenue from SHRM, you got revenue from the state, and you got revenue from the things that you're doing in your chapter. And that's what creates a healthy chapter.
Linda, can I just add something before we move off of that? I came from a small chapter, and it's not always the largest chapters that receive the most revenue shares, so please don't think that way. No matter what your chapter size is, by doing those different items, you can really earn a significant revenue share. So just wanted to add that in.
All right, thank you. And I want to clarify, Mark was right. I did a little research while I was talking. I can actually multitask, I think. And yes, he's right, that the net gains is 25, it's whatever difference of members you have, you get $25 for the net gain members you get for each member. Is that what you were saying, Mark?
Yep, that was I was saying.
And Mark was right. All right, thank you, Mark, for that. And I'm going to turn it over now, if there's no other questions on revenue share, over to Becky.
Hi, guys. Want to go ahead and click? So Megan mentioned earlier the Volunteer Leader Resource Center. This is, I actually keep this on my favorites toolbar. I'm out there probably, if not daily, every other day, or at least once a week. So this is really a great area for especially new board members to your chapters to be looking at specific items. There's a ton of toolkits out there. There's a lot of templates available. So rather than reinventing things, we encourage you as a board to make sure that you're utilizing the SHRM website and the Volunteer Leader Resource Network area. So when you go out to the site, you would just simply select the Volunteer Leader Resource Center. And then from there, it's going to ask you if you're a chapter or a state council. You're going to select chapter. And then from there, you would have all of your CLA positions that we outlined earlier today. I'm going to go ahead and click. So I want to just talk a little bit about the difference between at-large members and then local members only. That's probably one of the bigger areas where there's confusion as far as how we determine what our members are. So an at-large member is someone who maintains a national SHRM membership, but they are not affiliated with any local chapter in the state. Last year, 2018, HR Indiana conducted a statewide at-large mailing, and it was actually a dual effort in announcing our rebranding effort, and at the same time, we invited them to attend the conference, as well as asked them to, join a local chapter, and we provided them with our new membership brochure. that has all of our 15 chapters in the state. As a follow-up to that, the membership committee group we put together a templated letter to follow up to that letter, so that the local chapters could be very specific about the benefits of being a local member of that chapter. So what I want to share here with at-large members, so Linda mentioned about our Indiana SHRM members. Through the end of third quarter of 18, we had just so shy of 2,000 SHRM members in Indiana. And we've got almost double that in at-large members in the state of Indiana. So why that's important for you guys as chapter leaders to know is because there's a lot of revenue and a lot of opportunity that is sitting out there in the state of Indiana for us as chapters to be targeting this audience to get them involved in our chapters. And so the membership committee will be focusing on this year again, and we'll talk more about that as a membership committee. So the local memberships, and we will refer to that quite often as an LMO, not ELMO, LMO. So they are a local member only. So those individuals they do not maintain a national membership, and they just have a local membership. So actually, I am part of Michiana SHRM, which is the 100% chapter. So for our chapter, we don't have any LMOs. So Mark, if you want to go ahead and click one slide, I'm going to go ahead. Can you click another slide? We'll go back to this one. Oh, I updated my slide.
Sorry, I downloaded about an hour ago.
Huh, I did it before our state council meeting.
Shoot, okay.
Is there a way for me to share my screen?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to bring this report over.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. And then I'm going to share the screen. Okay. All right, can you guys see that?
Yep.
Great. So this is probably better, Mark. This is our quarterly report that we receive from SHRM. So as a membership director or the membership lead for your chapter and the chapter president, as well as myself, the state director, we all get a copy of this each quarter. So make sure that you're passing that on to your membership representative and actually sharing it with your board too, because remember, membership in the state of Indiana is all of our responsibilities, regardless of what role you have within your chapter. So let's just kind of take a look at this report. This is what I would consider kind of my Bible for my membership. So I'm going to pick on Evansville here because they've had a great year. So when Linda went through the revenue share, so you're going to see here that Evansville ended with 191 members in 2017. They're looking right now at 250. We haven't received the quarterly report yet for Q4, but just right now, based on their numbers, they're looking at a growth of 59 members times the $25. So they're looking at about $1,500 in revenue just for that increase in membership. So you can see that increasing your membership can have a significant impact on your revenue share with SHRM. Okay. So this report, the membership committee, we do review it, we go through it. It does have our chapter sizes on here. It also has the total number of members in chapter and then multi-members. So there are some chapters that have members that are close, maybe in proximity to other areas, and they may expand to other chapters and attend those meetings. However, in order for them to be counted as a chapter member for your chapter, they have to designate you as their chapter, okay? We talked about LMOs, and this report also shows your LMOs. Earlier, when we were talking about ways to gain revenue share and earn some of that revenue for your chapters, when I look at this LMO column, in our report, there's a couple chapters that have very small amounts of local members only. And these chapters should really sit down and consider maybe potentially going to 100% chapter. When you start running the numbers for what the incentive would be for you to go to that, it might be worth it. And I can help you through that, just because Michiana SHRM kind of went through that as well. So anyway, this report also goes more in depth off to the side with regard to where your percentage is. It also tracks your audits. Now keep in mind that this isn't it's a requirement. So you can see all of our chapters. We had one that did it late in the year, so but they did finish it, so we're all good there. But you have to do this stuff in order to maintain your affiliation. Jen's going to talk about certification here in a few minutes, but you can see here this report also started tracking our SHRM certification because you're getting revenue share on that as well, okay? All right, so Mark, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing that. Are we back on you now?
Yes, we are.
Okay. So can you go ahead and click to the next slide so I can just talk about these other two levels of member definitions? So then we have primary members. Primary members are, they are dedicated to one chapter. So on that report I just showed you, they would be in your SHRM chapter column, the multi-members we talked about. So the only other thing that I had in my slides was the membership committee. And really the membership committee is here to support you guys at the chapter level. And it's really important for all of our chapters to be represented on the membership committee because what we're doing at the state level is really, we're doing it to affect the chapters within the state. So I'm really looking for a representation from every chapter. So I'll reach out to all the current members and the new membership directors and get some things on the calendar for 2019. But this group of individuals, you know, we collaborate together and share best practices, do the idea sharing. We also work together to coordinate the annual conference and the things that we're going to do at the membership booth. And then we're also just working on our state initiatives as a team. So it's nice to have a good group of folks together to kind of help spearhead these membership initiatives because it does take more than just, you know, a couple people to do that. So any questions? Tella, you said Indy shows small. No, I think it showed SM for super mega. And then MG, that is, that's a mega chapter. And then that's all I have, Mark. I think the next slide goes into Jen.
Okay.
Yep. All right, thanks.
Hi, it's Jen. Good morning, good afternoon. My beautiful headshot from SHRM VLS in November 2018. Next, please. We don't need to look at that any longer. Just a quick advertisement. You know, the spring is upon us, even though some of us are expecting a big snowstorm this weekend. And it's time to be thinking about SHRM certification study groups. In the fall, right before our HR Indiana State Conference, several chapters were offering a certification, SHRM certification study group, and we put that information on a flyer, and hopefully a lot of you guys kind of got some interest through that. A lot of chapters do just prefer to offer it in the fall, but some chapters do offer a spring session and a fall session. If you've got something going on in the spring, if you can email me, jenniferlang@oldnational.com, and let me know. I'd like to certainly promote that when people inquire through our state about things that may be in their area. And then I'd like to probably actually add a tab to our website or a drop down through our certification page as part of our resources about other chapters that are having study groups. And if you're not even sure where to start, or you've got some questions or want to talk about best practices, and some of this may fall into our own Indiana VLS in February, but let me know, and I'm happy to share kind of what I know and get you connected with other chapters throughout our state that may have something that more aligns with what your needs are. But the thing about the whole certification thing is that happens twice a year. The next test starts May 1st. It runs through July 15th. So typically these study groups get started in February. It's January 11th. Don't panic too much. If you haven't started one, there's still certainly a ton of time, but let me know and we can get that ball rolling for you. So if you've got any questions, concerns, or if you're having a study group, and I can read the little notes, I'm not as good as Linda and I can't read it and talk at the same time. Let me know and we'll be working on getting information to you or at least advertising it for your chapter. Next slide, please. Got a lot of resources. Sometimes the SHRM certification, you think like, how do I even do a study group? What do I do? We've got a great partner with Holmes. They're the people that put together the actual SHRM learning system, and they can help you do all that stuff. I mean, in terms of materials, and there's instructor PowerPoints, they've really revamped that site. And actually there's like instructor tutorials, things that tips and tools and tricks that you can utilize. There is a little bit of work required, but it's come so far that you certainly aren't inventing it from the ground up. There's a lot of stuff kind of off the shelf. And Becky mentioned the VLRC, Megan talked about it too, but there's also some tools out on the Volunteer Leader Resource Center about promoting certification. But I can certainly give you a crash course as well. As I mentioned, the spring testing window opens up May 1st. It'll close July 15th. Applications are being accepted now. March 22nd is the regular deadline. You can pay another $25 for a late fee. And then, they'll take that through April the 12th. So that's the drop dead date. People that are interested in the certification application process, there's a link there. And then a lot of questions about eligibility. They've got a wonderful chart. If you click on that link, it'll pretty much answer your questions. So don't, again, feel like you need to be an expert. Refer people to the chart. And certainly if there's a unique situation, bubble it up to me. I'm happy to consult on it. But again, that chart really does a pretty good job of answering those questions. Next slide, please. Scholarships, more opportunity for free money. SHRM is offering 110 SHRM certification scholarships on June 15th. They are going to start accepting applications next week, and they'll do that through April 15th. And it is eligible for a $750 award. What's also unique is chapters are eligible to apply. And I know a couple of chapters here probably on this call have been granted this scholarship in the past, and it's a great way to get your certification program off the ground. So it is specific to a chapter, the second link, and if you're interested in that, let's talk about that. Let's help you with that. Certainly if you're awarded the money, because of timing, it may be better if you look at it in the fall, but we can certainly work through logistics if you're interested in that. But don't let that free money escape you. Go for it. Next slide, please. Big kind of news last year, 2018, is SHRM has revamped their kind of recertification requirements. And the important thing is you always have needed 60 PDCs over your 3-year recertification period, but it's no longer required that you physically attend conferences and monthly meetings. You can do a lot more on your own self-paced activities, basically get all your credits virtually. I know the chapters may cringe a little bit about that. Certainly our state conference, we don't want to suffer through that. There's totally benefits for attending all that stuff in person, but they didn't want the money or the schedule or the location to get in the way of recertification. As Linda mentioned too, there's money on the table to, shout out to the free money on the table to encourage your membership to get recertified, especially if it's coming up in 2019. A big wave has already come. A lot of us have already done it, but make sure that you're hitting up those 2019 people. As Becky mentioned, the membership report can be a resource for you, and we can get some further information from Nicole Hall if you're looking at targeted communications or proactive outreach. But this whole self-paced thing is really a nice thing to remind people of and promote. Again, we don't necessarily see it as a conflict with what you're trying to do at the chapter level, certainly what we're trying to do at the state level, but just giving people an opportunity to continue to be engaged in the HR profession and then as well as continue with their SHRM certification. if anybody's got any problems, they have this whole team of recertification counselors and, someone you can email if they're having trouble getting logged in or they get audited or something like that. But this whole self-paced thing is a pretty new thing and wasn't a huge splash, but continue to talk it up if people are panicked that they can't get their credits. There's a lot of ways to do that. Next slide, please. Oh, Mark.
And that's me. All right. So a lot of you are new in your roles, or you have a new VP of programs, and you're wondering, how on earth do I get my program certified, and what are the basic requirements? Because you can get kind of tripped up on this on occasion. You'll get somebody that'll contact you that's a speaker, and they sound really great, but it's not HR related. So obviously, to qualify for recertification from both HRCI and SHRM certification, you have to have something that's HR related. And it has to follow the BOC. And both BOCs are somewhat similar. If you want to read HRCI's BOC, go to their website, go to SHRM's BOC and read theirs. This trips up people quite a lot because, as you know, I certify a lot of programs for I'm also executive director of Indy SHRM, so I certify all of our programs, but also I provide that service for HRCI for other chapters as well, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But this trips up people a lot if they do a conference. Your program has to be 1 hour. I get submissions sometimes that have a keynote speaker that's 35 minutes and then somebody right after that. Unfortunately, that can't be a half a credit. You have to go to your full hour. So it can be 45 minutes and 15 Q&A, but it has to be a full 1 hour to qualify for any kind of credit. After that, if it's a 2 hour presentation, obviously it's 2 credits, but you can go in 15-minute increments to get 0.25 credits as well. This trips up people too, because you might have a great speaker that sends you information, and he's a great motivational, or he or she is a great motivational speaker, and has all these things from Dale Carnegie and all this. Unfortunately, it can't be considered for credit if it is motivational, personal development, or obviously selling services. And all of us get tripped up in that every now and then. We don't know what's going to happen with a speaker if they're new. Indy SHRM had a problem last fall that all this person did was sell their services, and unfortunately I was at VLS, so I couldn't get the hook and yank them off stage. So all of us we'll run into that on occasion, that they sell their services. I mean, it's up to your chapter to decide if they want to say something at the end saying, hey, if you want more information, yada, yada. But, that's something that is trips chapters up every now and then. If there's a panel of speakers, each one has to have some sort of structured presentation. It can't be just spitballing. And then roundtable discussions typically don't count. Some of the other rules that have been in place over the years have been loosened, especially with HRCI. HRCI used to be a stickler with you can't be serving food during the presentation. Well, they realized that, sometimes you're still eating and clearing tables and all this. So that's not so much of a requirement anymore. As I alluded to, I am a approved provider for both HRCI and a recertification provider for SHRM certification. So if you have any questions about any of that, just call me and I will help you through that situation. If you want me to certify your program for HRCI, I have a new online submission form, and it's right here at hrindianashrm.org/certification, and that will pop up a form that you can type in all of your information. It'll get sent to me. Within a day or two, I'll send you the HRCI certification number right back to you. And it's a lot easier and quicker than going through HRCI since they take, sometimes several weeks to respond. If you have any questions on that, go ahead and type them in the chat box. If not, I will turn it back over. All right, Amy, you're up.
Hi, thank you, Mark. Hi, everybody. This is Amy. You can go to the next slide, Mark. Talking a bit about the SHRM Foundation. For those of you who are not familiar, the SHRM Foundation is a 501c3. It is a not-for-profit that is affiliated with SHRM. It's a values-based charity, and they have 3 prongs within their work. They provide research-based solutions, they provide scholarships, and they provide opportunities for HR professionals to make a difference in their local community. We support the SHRM Foundation in a variety of ways. As Jeremy alluded earlier, we were actively engaged in a fundraising activity in 2018, and our goal was to be number 2 in the top 10 list of state councils. As of December 31st, we were still in the number 2 spot. We were actually in number 1 for a little while, but those darn Floridians snuck up on us. That's okay, we'll come back. There's like alligators, but we'll get them next year. Next slide, please, Mark. So anyway, they will publish the final list later in February. There was a pretty decent gap between us and number 3, so I anticipate that we will still be in the number 2 spot, and that is definitely kudos to everyone in the entire state. We will be doing that again this year. Our primary fundraising event takes place at the conference. It has been a silent auction in the past, although last year we did a raffle instead. That was met with great response. If you were there at the conference, you remember our ringmaster, Ed, who did a tremendous job with videos and programming and getting people engaged and supporting that. And all of our chapters who donated baskets really stepped it up, and we made a tremendous showing. That combined with our other donations throughout the year did enable us to meet our goal. So all of our chapters, we're going to be asking for that same support again this year. So the theme for the conference, at least the theme for the exhibit hall, is Silver Screen. So you can be thinking about how you may want to engage in that when we ask you for donations next year. We also encourage all of our chapters to meet the Foundation Champion requirements, and that requires, 1, that you make a donation directly from your chapter funds. It also asks that you conduct a leadership campaign with your board of directors and encourage all of them to make a donation. For example, on the state council, we conduct the same type of leadership campaign, and if you look in our job descriptions, you will see that it is strongly encouraged that every member of the state council make a personal donation to the foundation. As part of that move to be a champion, they also ask all chapters and state councils to encourage their members to make that personal donation to the foundation, and to make that donation at a $30 level, which will enable that person to join Team Empower. Team Empower is a special group of donors who donate at $30 or more, and who pledge not only to make that monetary donation, but also to use the foundation's tools to support the foundation's missions of developing inclusive workspaces and go out and do something in their community. That could be volunteering, that could be engaging with your chapter and sharing the resources, that could be, talking with people at your church or in your workspace. They don't tell you specifically what you have to do. They just want you to pay that forward and share the foundation's mission and tools. And then they also ask, the final prong as part of that Foundation Champion requirements is to conduct a fundraiser for the foundation. And that fundraiser can, of course, raise those funds that would be in your chapter funds, and that's where you can make that direct donation. In the chapters, if you want to type right now into the chat box some ideas that you have about fundraisers, how you've done things, that would be great. We'd love to share that information. There is a toolkit available online, and that is, of course, at shrm.org/foundation. It does appear that the foundation has moved their resources out of the VLRC and onto the foundation site, so you can find them there. And then you have to go to get involved, and then you can find resources for chapters and councils. Next slide, please. We talked about scholarships. Jen mentioned certification scholarships earlier. The foundation does award scholarships as well, and they award about $500,000 worth of scholarships every year. They do have scholarships twice a year to earn SHRM certification. There is also a recertification scholarship. You can earn scholarships to attend an academic or university for undergraduate, graduate, or doctoral work. There are scholarships available for the SHRM annual conference. I believe there's also a scholarship for the Diversity and Inclusion Conference. There's also some research-based scholarships. So because the foundation is an affiliate of SHRM, SHRM provides all of their administrative work so that all of the money that is donated to the foundation does directly go to support the foundation's mission. And that would be either by giving away money in scholarships, by creating the tools and supporting their inclusion initiatives. Mark, I don't know if I have another slide or not. Can you go forward? I don't. But just a couple of other things. The foundation's inclusion initiative for this year is veterans. What the foundation does is they have inclusion initiatives running on it's supposed to be a 2-year cycle, and I believe this is year 2 of their veterans initiative. And some of the things that they have done, one, there is a certificate available, a veterans hiring certificate that it includes a number of webinars and readings that you as a professional could enroll in this free web-based class, and then when you're finished, you get a certificate and you're armed with knowledge to create your own veterans hiring initiative. So that may be something that individuals or chapters may want to look at, certainly promote that as, you know, getting that tool out there and supporting diversity initiatives. That's certainly also an opportunity for chapters, I believe, for your foundation chair and your diversity and or workforce readiness chair to work together and get all of those CLAs looking at an initiative related to diversity and workforce readiness. The SHRM Foundation, for example, has pledged several $1 million as part of their veterans initiative, and one of the things that they're doing is that they've created programs to help military veterans transition into civilian HR positions. So a lot of good work going on out there. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to myself or your CLA representative on your board. I certainly look forward to seeing everyone at VLS. We will have some type of foundation activity going on at VLS, not sure what that is yet. And of course, my sidekick and #1 executive officer, Ed, is on the team, and we are planning for our Silver Screen 25th anniversary activity at State Conference. Thank you all.
Mark, are you able to go to the next slide?
There we go. Sorry.
Jeremy?
Sorry, I was on mute again. So basically, what we're really happy about is like having all of you on board and working with us. There's so many volunteer resources for you that are out there, and we want to be that resources for you in that particular role. And the big thing is that we want you to really join us for the Volunteer Leadership Summit that's coming up on Friday, February 22nd. It's going to be something we're doing very different this year based on feedback that we've received from all of you, and ensuring that we're really supporting you and delivering information to you that can help your chapters continue to be successful, continue to meet its strategic plans, and continue to grow our membership and deliver on what we do, and that's important to us. So you will be receiving a link for registration to get registered. And so watch out for your emails for that. That will be coming to you. And we'll have sessions, as it says, on government relations, marketing, membership, college relations, and a lot of other areas. We will be doing what we call micro trainings this year, which is different for us, to be able to ensure that when you walk away from this BLS, that you have enough information, or maybe just sometimes dipping your toe in a little bit that makes you curious about learning more or doing something differently. And that's what it's all about. It's all about learning, us providing those resources to you. Next. So we want to say thank you so much for volunteering as we close up and wrap up this orientation. You really are, and I know it could sound cliche when we say these things, but really, you guys are the ones who make us successful, that make our conference successful, that help our state council be what it is. All of your hard work, your dedication, your passion, your enthusiasm for what we do for the HR profession, it's all because of you. And I mean that wholeheartedly. That's why we're as successful as we are. That's why we continue to have a good presence, a large presence within National SHRM. And people know that in the state of Indiana, we do great things from an HR perspective. And so I want to thank each of you for your contributions. We really look forward to working with you throughout this year and working toward achieving our mission and our vision, et cetera. So thank you so much. I saw a question that's come up from Jill about how you can get a copy of the slides. Mark will send those out to us, to everyone who is here, and you'll be able to get a copy of the slides as well and have all of that. So thank you for asking, Jill. So again, I don't think there's any more slides after this, Mark, is there?
Nope.
So perfect. So thank you again for joining us. If there are any questions, please type that into the chat box before we wrap up. But other than that, I believe that we are free to go. Thank you all so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.